Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. Um, I wanna first, before we get started with our conversation tonight, I have to talk in general about what's happening in the world and the planet, and to kind of like segue into the path of ascendance and collective rescue or work that I've been trying to guide you for since 2008 to do. Um, at this moment, and going into the, particularly in America, going into the election, things are going to be extremely rough. Not only climate change, but also politically, socially, there is and also mentally for a lot of people. A lot of people will find themselves on edge, in panic. And now more than ever, it is important for all of us who have been doing this work since, some of you have been with me since 2008, who've been doing this work. It's more than ever important for us to ground ourselves and establish a collective spiritual practice. I'm still downloading exactly what we're supposed to do. Downloading is the one of the adjective, but it's also remembering. Okay. It is very clear to me that I have to ground better, because a lot of the things that are going to happen for the world, it's not just here. If you look at what's happening in Kenya, in South America, in even in Russia with the terrorist attack, in France, and everywhere around the world, it's the status quo is getting shaken, and violently shaken in some instances. And what I realize for me is that since the beginning of the pandemic and all of that, I allowed the fear of all of that, because I had seen that future, the fear of all of that, because when you see something, you cannot unsee it, created a lot of fears for me and generated a whole bunch of stuff for me that I had to move through and process out. And then thank God I'm on the other side of that. And more importantly for me at this moment, I realize that I cannot exist in the state of watching over my back every 5 minutes. That state of scanning and searching for danger and looking for the boogeyman and trying to interpret everything that I see in the media and the news, anything that's going on with the filter or lens of who's going to try to get me today. It's not a healthy state of being. That's the fight or flight state of consciousness. And that's directly what the archons want you to be in, as a way for them to enter and penetrate. So I've been guided for the past 2 weeks by spirit to radiate and to bring into my heart the love, the peace, the serenity that I know, and more importantly, to see the world as half full, meaning the planet is going to a collective karma, meaning that, and karma being a correction and repair, there is nothing that I can do to change some of the things that are happening in the world that politicians, judges, economists are doing. But what I can do is that I can radiate and remain and know that these things need to happen. They are part of the transition into something else. And as a transition into something else, they are causing, this is going to be very bumpy. And the only thing I can do, I don't have the power to take the karma out of the world. I don't have the power, and I don't want any of you to assume that responsibility of the sacrifice to try to sacrifice yourself for the world by praying and offering your strength to kind of shield the planet. This is not what God is asking of any of us. That sacrifice name is a lie. It's the greatest lie that the church has perpetrated on humanity, the Catholic Church, the Christian Church. The idea of the sacrifice was not the teaching of Jesus. Jesus thought a gospel and a teaching of a loving, kind, light-filled, and abundant-filled God that would fill every corner of our consciousness with light and love. There was no pain, there was no suffering, there was no sacrifice. That whole thing was created by Paul, who by the 1st century got converted into Christianity. And Paul never met Jesus and brought in a lot of other teachings into Christianity. And the Paul influence was adopted by the church as it served them better to create the richest not-for-profit organization in the world. I hate to be that mercenary and direct, but that's what it was. So I don't want you to do a sacrifice. What I'm alluding to is that God, the Spirit is trying to help me remember what we are collectively will be doing. So in the next few weeks, I expect that everything will fall into places. Now it drips and drips are coming in. It's like, again, staring at the dense fog and sensing a silhouette or benevolent thing that's coming from the fog, and it's coming into clearer and clearer perception. And it's emerging, and I don't know where it's going to end, but it's coming. This is the way I perceive things. The landscape of the future and what we're supposed to do, and I can sense something is coming that we're supposed to collectively do between now, on a daily basis, between now and toward the middle of next year, to help guide the planet. And I can tell you what I know it's not. It's not a sacrifice. I know that it is about us being in perpetual and permanent state of hope. Seeing the glass as half full and knowing that whatever is going on, stop taking responsibility and emotional responsibility to try to change and woe me, the world is, Chicken Little, the world is falling, the sky is falling, the world is in chaos. Stop this. We know better. We know that what we're here for, that God brought us here for a very specific reason. And it's to be the shepherd. And in order for us to be able to do this work, we have to broadcast the liberation, the hope, the love, and the light that we know. Not the fear, not the panic. In fact, the panic and the fear that the archangel is trying to infect us in, it's a way for them to dim our light so that we don't do the work that we're supposed to do. So we need to be very cognizant of this, and I have been for the past 3 weeks, and I've been in a state of radiating the love and the kindness and the hope that I know is the truth. So what we're going to be doing, we're not trying to remove the world's karma. We're trying to broadcast a different big beacon of light, a different wave, a different frequency, a different vibration, to radiate to the world and to the people who are willing to listen that hope is there, light is there, and love is there. Whether they accept it or refute it, it's up to them. It's not up to us. All we can do is just broadcast it. Share it with the world. And let the rest of the planet, whomever wants to hear it, capture the vibration, nurture it, and let it radiate out. That's what entrainment is about. That's what influencing a circle of influence, that's what it's all about. Because if we ourselves are besieged by fear and panic and conspiracy and theories, we are not going to help anyone. That's not the way you help anyone, by broadcasting the telephone game or broadcasting more fear and sharing more fear. It's actually by standing fast, standing still in the knowing that it will work itself out. That's part of the change. This transition and the apparent chaos is part of the change. We need to stand through it and still remain in hope and know that that will be the intention that we're going to be holding. We're going to talk about intention in greater detail in a moment. But if we all hold that intention will be the grounding rod, the central axis that will hold us together as a way to guide humanity. Because if we know that most human beings intend and unintend 3 to 5 times per minute, and it means that the subconscious mind, the archetypes, the complexes, and the negative programs are constantly changing our mind and telling us, that or the other. We intend to do this. We want to help humanity move into the new earth without sacrificing ourselves. Because sacrificing implies I'm going to have to lose my life for you. That's not what God wants. Remember, we are not doing the work. What's doing the work is God. It's infinity times infinity. It's the blessed field. There's nothing that the blessed field cannot do. All we have to do is become the grounding rod to let radiate the benevolence, the kindness, the perpetual renewal, and the abundant flow that comes from that field. And if we become the outlet through which all of that can be released on the planet, and all of us do this together, we should absolutely be able to do influence way more people than we think we can influence. So I'm going to be working on putting this together. I know for a fact the beginning of it is the breath control in the morning, the 5-minute breath control, and the analysis or the self-assessment of your central axis and core. And once that is over, if you have the time, a torsion field. So at least these 3 things I have clear so far. I don't know if there's special prayer, meditation, or what else needs to be added. I'm still listening and waiting for more information to settle in. Any questions, any comments that you may have? Okay. I want to go back for a moment and I want to clarify a couple of things I had said over the past few classes about the quantum nature of consciousness. And there were some inaccuracies in what I had said about the quantum nature of consciousness. And I want to go over and correct those facts. And I had sent all of you these recordings, and these 2 recordings. So, and I went back and listened over the recording and realized a couple of things I got slightly wrong. So I want to be clear about this. So, according to quantum physics, the fundamental things that everything in the universe is made of is not necessarily actual particle. In fact, there's nothing that actual particle in solid per se. Everything exists in fluidic field, almost like waves. And more to the point, there exists 4 fields in play that everything in the universe is made of. There's a field in which electrons pop up like bubbles on the surface of the ocean. And they can pop out and appear somewhere else. And again, the electron that we noticed when we measure them scientifically are nothing more than a node or a bubble on a fluidic field, a perpetually moving field called the field of electron. Equally also important is another field called the neutrinos, and the neutrinos are neutral, they don't interact with any other field. But from the time I've been talking to you now, hundreds and hundreds of them have passed through all of you, up and down in every direction, and that field is also fluidic and in perpetual motion. There's also what they call the up quark and the down quark. Those two other fields as well exist. So if you were to look at a new periodic table, instead of having hundreds of elements, it would end up having basically 4 fields. But for a reason that scientists don't have a real explanation for, in the earlier version of the universe, when the universe was much younger, the same field existed, but their weight was 200 times heavier. So the same electron field, neutrino field, called dot quark, existed in the early universe, 200 times heavier. Then if you go even at the birth of the universe itself, the same field existed again, but this 4 field, except this time they were 3,000 times heavier. Okay? So as the universe cools down, the quality, the physics of the fluidic field have changed and altered. So you have a total in the universe for everything to be created, although the 200 and the 3,000 heavier field are mostly found they are very exotic particles. They are not abundant. What's abundant is the electron field, the neutrino, the up quark, the down quark. And these other items are more exotic. They can be recreated in the Hadron Accelerator in CERN. There is also another field called, so you have 12 field. 4 times 3 is 12. Then you also have another field called the Higgs boson field that was recreated at CERN in the accelerator, the particle accelerator. That was proven to exist because, again, exotic particle, very rare. No one has ever seen it until it was recreated. So you have that. And then with all of these fields, there exists 4 forces. You have gravity as a force, and gravity is important because you can understand it as a trampoline, okay, where you put a marble on a trampoline and it dents the whole fabric of time, the marble having a certain mass, a certain gravity to it. But if you put a bowling ball or an anvil, it will deform more, and more object will be pulled toward it. But I don't want you to think of it as just a trampoline, because it's not just a trampoline, because a trampoline implies a flat, thin surface. It's actually 3D, it's in every direction. When the gravity is pulling, it's pulling everywhere. It would be more like an object inside water. So you have gravity, you have electromagnetism, and you have what they call strong nuclear and weak nuclear. The strong and the weak nuclear are important because, although they are kind of exotic thing to explain, the strong nuclear is a force that allows molecules to come together, to be attracted, to be bonded to each other. The weak nuclear tend to push them apart. And in actually Indian philosophy, the Sushumna and I've been teaching a class on the Antakarana and the Rainbow Bridge, which is the Sahasrara column going from 3D all the way back to God. The way the Indian or the Sanskrit would describe the Shushuma, it's almost like a road, or they call it the Rainbow Bridge. It's like a silver cord that goes from our first chakra that goes all the way back to God. And it is animated by two energies, one descending and one ascending. The one that descends, they said, come from Shiva or the Holy Spirit, or if you want to call it a different term, and it descends into the earth, and it's trying to manifest, to go from an invisible God's intention and try to manifest into the earth. Where the other way to describe that same force is that it's centripetal, meaning that it think of it as a if you have water in your tub or in a sink, and you plug the sink and it's filled with water, when you unplug it, the water will funnel into where the opening is. That's centripetal action, meaning the water goes from the edge and tend to focus to the center. This is what that force, the strong nuclear, or that force that comes, and it's called Pingala in Sanskrit, that's descending. This is what it's trying to do. It's trying to manifest into itself. It's pulling at everything in its surrounding to make manifest an intention. Okay? The inverse is true. The force that comes from Shakti, or the earth, that's rising, passing through her feet, is trying to liberate. And it's centrifugal. Meaning, like if you ever been in the fun house and you're in the cage or the ride where the ride begins to spin so fast that you're all of a sudden you're glued to the back of the wall. That's centrifugal action. It's trying to move things from the center to the edge out. Whereas the other force is taking things from the edge, moving them to the center. Does any of this make sense to all of you? Did I lose you? Are you getting this? I just want to make sure that you're not lost before I proceed.
Following, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, having talked about this, is that the second video talked about the scientist named Penrose, Nobel laureate, great mathematician, who proposed that the world, the universe, actually, human consciousness is actually exists in a quantum state. It's all theory. He didn't have any scientific evidence to back it. Neurologists attacked him. Psychologists attacked him. Basically, all scientists, mathematicians, they all attacked him, because to duplicate a quantum state, you have to go at very cold temperatures. And the human body is at 98 degrees. That cannot be duplicated in the neuron net of the brain. So therefore, they poo-pooed him. They said he was wrong. Until more recently, an anesthesiologist observed the fact that when he gives gas, like xenon or argon, to anesthetize his client, the gas is inert gases. But for whatever reason, when the client inhale it in that close proximity, they lose consciousness. They go to sleep, they pass out. And there is no biological reason that he can think of that any of this should happen, except for this one explanation, that our body create tryptophan, And that molecule creates rings, circles. And in fact, it doesn't just create circles, but it can create these continuous tube. And those tubes exist everywhere in the mitochondria of the cells. They exist everywhere in the body. And these tubes are so pervasive that they are almost like a crystalline network that are called microtubulin, Tubulin. And that network exists everywhere. And it realizes that the microtubulin is actually, depending on the gas that you're inhaling, whether you're inhaling air that holds consciousness, normal consciousness, or you put some sort of exotic gas for somebody to inhale. When you do this, if you analyze and scan the body and that network, it becomes neon-like. It becomes bioluminescent. The frequency and the color of this network changes. So there is a direct link to either being awake, conscious, or unconscious, connected to the microtubule network. And so the proposal is that human consciousness, and again, it's not a false stretch, because spiritual people for thousands and thousands of years have known this. That's why you do the deep breath. That's why you do the universal breath or any kind of pranayama breathing. Is that through that breathing, you change the channel, these microtubulin, you change the frequency and the vibration of this channel. In the Sanskrit tradition, in your Ayurvedic tradition, they call these the nadis line. Unlike the meridian, where you have a few of them, they are for example, the roof of your mouth has in it over 72,000 nadis line. There's an immense network. So in the Indian or Sanskrit tradition, the Shushuma, or the chakra column, or the rainbow bridge, that will take the seventh chakra in the physical body, connected to the 8th and 15th chakra in the 4D, and the 16th chakra to the 22nd chakra in 5D, and so on all the way back to God. That system is the direct path to God, a direct arrow path to God. Whereas the microtubulin is a network that has a lot of side roads, back roads, if you will, you can meander in and move in all different directions. It's everywhere in the body. In fact, it moves a lot of protein and nutrient into the cell to bring energy, to bring protein, to bring all kinds of things in. Any questions? Any comments?
Pierre, I was thinking about how the micro and the macrocosm influences what exists in one exists in the other. And I wonder if these microturbulins aren't what we call wormholes in the macrocosm. That is, they're tubular cylindrical channels, if you like, to get to other parts of the universe.
Very possible, Janice. It's extremely possible. I'm not even there yet, but it's a great a way for your mind to wander, a normal path for the mind to wander into. But I can tell you, just acknowledging now, for science to acknowledge that consciousness is directly connected, is completely connected to the quantum state, is immense. But mystics have known this for thousands of years. That when I enter the blessed field, I don't call it the quantum field, but my term is the blessed field, because when I go in there, all I feel is benevolence and blessings. When I enter into that state, I experience the kind of consciousness I'm in is very different. And again, I've said this in past classes. Initially, when you're approaching that state, you are not necessarily conscious the first few times. You pass out. you know you go somewhere, you just go blank, or you think you fall asleep, but you don't fall asleep because when you return, you feel great. It's just that your mind, the ego mind, cannot process or comprehend a state of being in which you're in a blessed field where all these kind of benevolence. And the reason I'm saying this is that in the first video I had sent you that men showed, the scientist David Tong showed a representation of empty space. It's a cube, and in the cube, he shows all of these fluids that are constantly moving. He said, there is no emptiness. Those fields that he talks about, the 17 fields, and I'm going to add to it one more field, which is consciousness, or cosmic consciousness, the field of God that's like the conductor that's orchestrating everything, that connects to our own human consciousness. That field is everywhere. And if it is everywhere, of course, it would be in wormholes. And that fluid, I mean, if you think about it, the emptiness of space, when he's saying by looking at that box, that cube, that graphic he was representing, he's saying there is no such thing as an empty space. It's everywhere. Now, what we have to focus on, and what I want the class to focus on today, is the fact it's what are the things that are going to affect the kind of conscious awareness that you have. Because according to the Tibetan Buddhism, most of us are unconscious tendencies in emptiness. What do I mean by that? We are in that blessed field, like it was representing in the cube, and empty, what the vacuum of space is, but we are unconscious. We are not self-aware enough to know that we're in it, because we're too bound as a singularity of expression. So the whole point of doing meditation practice and doing proper kind of exercise and breath control, meaning breathing, when we do universal breath, I ask you to draw the breath as if your lung existed in the core of the earth and to draw the breath from there. I know that your lung doesn't go into the core of the earth. But if your consciousness drop into that, you will draw from the field that exists in that place to bring the proper energy into your microtubule. And when you exhale it all out and you go back into source and you release it, and all of a sudden as you release it, and there is the retention of the breath, and you wait for whatever comes, there is a sense of all of these benevolent things that are swirling about you, and there is a great sense of release of your burden. When that happens, that blessing, you don't need to know what field it is, okay? Is it the up quark? Is it the down quark? The neutrino, the electron? Is it the, it's not relevant. What's relevant is that if it feels benevolent, because the field of cosmic consciousness will bring to you, because the universe exists in a perpetual state of trying to establish equilibrium and balance. So if you have a burden or fear, and as you draw the breath from the core of the earth and you move it through, and it passes through you and it exits outside of you, and you release it into source, source or the blessed field will know what the scalar invert, the opposite of it is. And it will bring it to you. And as it brings it to you, you can feel it coming, that benevolent quality. It doesn't matter how you see it. When you sense it, inhale that field, that wave, that fluidic presence. Inhale it and bring it into the top of your head, into your body, and into the core of the earth. And you repeat the same breath 12 times. And by the time you're done, your consciousness is completely immersed and completely connected to the blessed field or the quantum field. So in order for us to stop being unconscious tendencies in the vacuum of soul, in all emptiness, not conscious, passing out as we're going through the field, not being aware that we're there, so that we can develop the quality of awareness. I'm asking you to do that breath control exercise as a way for you to consciously carry your self-awareness through. I'm going in the core of the earth, I'm moving that, let that field move through me, okay? The centrifugal force move through me, which is the weak nuclear, move through me, and I'm taking it out into, and I'm releasing it into source. And when source wants to see the solution set that's desirable for me and brings it to me, because if you practice it enough, you will feel it. When you're in the retention of the breath and you let go, after a moment, there will be all kinds of things of different qualities that seems to surround your awareness in that state. And then at that moment, you inhale and you let it come in. And you ground it into your body as you dropped it into the core of the earth. And you repeat the cycles. It's two things. It's out, in, out, in. You repeat it 6 times in a row for a total of 12 individual movement. And then the pranayama, or the breath control, is complete. The cycle is complete. You have changed your normal state of awareness from being unconscious and the tendencies to being now consciously immortal. You're not going to remain in it all the time, but at least for the moment you're there. Any questions, any comments?
This is a way to fulfill what you started saying at the very beginning of the class, to be a grounding rod for God's power in this time of stress that's steaming up with various global events taking place, correct? So it's not just that we exist ourselves in peace, love, and light and emanate that, radiate that, but this connection from the center of the earth to source, connecting that across the rainbow bridge, is the vehicle, perhaps, for that grounding.
Yes, Janice. Yes, Janice. It's one of the ways to do this, because, in other words, we have to be more intentional instead of intending and unintending all the time. Through that practice on a daily basis, we're going to strengthen our intention that I am about the hope and that connection. When I go into the blessed field, all of a sudden this benevolence is coming in. And if you practice going in that space enough time, you will begin to realize that the fear is an illusion. And the benevolence will begin to occupy more and more real estate in your consciousness. And therefore the doubts will be cast out. And you will be more intentional in in the control of where you keep your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a term in French, abaissement du niveau mental. It's a dip in your mental level. And when that happens, you become unconscious. Whereas if you're at peak, you're in the valley, but if you're at peak, you're in a different place. So it's important that we stay away from the abaissement du niveau mental and go into the peaks to allow us to be in a better state of awareness. And so, and a lot of the other practices that I've been teaching you are connected, because the whole point of trying, for example, like the whole planet has collective karma. And the whole point of the transit that we're going through is an acceleration in the opportunity to correct and repair the karma. And so what I'm saying is that I don't want to take the karma of the world. It's a responsibility that's too heavy. I can't carry it. it would destroy the average person, including me. But what I can do is that I can radiate the peace and the serenity that I know. I can radiate love. I can radiate, abundance. I can radiate all kinds of things. So where I am and what I'm trying to understand in broadcast is that I'm trying to analyze the reason we're doing all this work individually. I'm doing it. I'm trying to get rid of my karma, like because every time I'm triggered by an event, let's say what the Supreme Court decision just made, and all of a sudden I'm upset and I'm angry and I'm fuming from the mouth and oh my God, I can't believe that. To the degree that I am foaming at the mouth, or I have somebody in my life that acted in a way that I'm unhappy about, a friend or family member or student that's got me very upset, the degree that I'm foaming about, I have karma with this person. What does the karma mean? It's correction and repair. It's not me being a victim. It's an opportunity for me to correct and repair an imbalance in my spiritual psychology. And the way I'm gonna repair this, I'm gonna spend my time understanding in me the whatever it is that I'm upset about exists to a degree in me. Whatever injustice, whatever victimization, whatever I thought the person is perpetuating in me, there is a 50% co-creation either in this lifetime or past lifetime that I'm not seeing. I co-created. Karma is being held at 2 points. It's like a rubber band being held at 2 points. So I'm holding another end that may not be visible to me because I'm focusing on the other person and what the tension they're creating on the other side. So I have to be more, and again, this is where self-assessment and accountability becomes important. I have to begin to realize what I'm holding is equally important than what the person is holding. And when of course, the way karma gets repaired is through forgiveness. And what forgiveness? You not only have to ask the person, the person who you think is doing something against you for forgiveness through the Ho'oponopono, but you equally also have to acknowledge that in the past you don't remember, either in this lifetime or in the past lifetime, you too acted in a correct manner. And then now you have to forgive yourself for being not perfect, broken. Okay? And therefore, and by the way, that second part, acknowledge and forgiving self, that's the most difficult part. That's the most difficult part. Because most of us are not, or easy, it's easy for us to forgive someone else. It is difficult for us to begin to forgive others. Any questions, any comments? Yes. So what we need to do is that so that's one way in which the karma can be balanced, is that we can begin to acknowledge that the Patreon, not the Patreon, but that the karma is a two-way street. It's not just, this person did something to me and it's my burden and I'm going to be the victim and the universe is going to punch me in the stomach because of this. It's not what it is. It's repair. You need to do work to repair it. And the work is accountability. In what past life? And if you cannot remember the past life, go to a past life regression therapist, have them take you back in time so that you can actually see. Book a session. I can take you back and let you see exactly where and when this started. What is it that you did? What's your co-creation? And the moment you understand this, when you say, please forgive me, you will know the offense that you committed. And once you know the offense, you can ask for the repair. And you can say, please forgive me for this offense. I love you and I let go and I'm letting go. And then beyond that, you then forgive yourself for being imperfect, for being broken, for having agendas in the past, for being myopic, and for not seeing things in a broader, ascended, elevated way when you were younger, either in this lifetime or in the past life. You have to acknowledge that part as well. So that forgiveness goes both ways. And the moment that happened, the karma is resolved. Karma is a restoring balance and equilibrium. It's not tit for tat. It's not vengeance. It's not retaliation. It's not punishment. And so therefore, as I'm working on myself and I'm seeing all this karma, removing all this karma, balancing and restoring equilibrium, making correction, my intention will be stronger and clearer when I go for my pranayama, my universal breath. It will become stronger and stronger because I'm removing all of these obstacles. So the stuff that are triggering us on a personal level are triggering us for our benefit. Because as they are triggering us, they are giving us the opportunity to see what we would not otherwise see. If you can think of the karma that's being triggered at this time for us or for the whole planet as an accelerant, as a precipitate, an agent that will allow a precipitate to occur. And that will allow us to move through what would otherwise be us being unconscious tendencies in emptiness.
And if that karmic entanglement isn't identified and resolved, it will leave a wound or an emotional set point that is likely to incur more karma, I would think.
Yes, it becomes a doorway that, well, when you don't address something, the subconscious mind is very specific. The rules are very specific. If you don't address something that the subconscious mind is trying to bring to you, it will bring stronger experiences related to the same thing. They will become more and more dramatic every step of the way. They will become bigger and bigger and more difficult.
Yes, but in addition, you are likely to commit other offenses because of your blocked sort of, you're not in neutrality. So
yes,
you see everything as the glass half empty and so on. But I wanted to ask if you could talk about the karmic board. At what point do you call upon them when you cannot resolve your own unforgiveness or when the other party is not relinquishing their position? When do you call upon them?
Yes, the karmic board is a rare thing. They are benevolent collective that are helping us, that are helping the laws of karma operate with kindness and fairness and love. The divine director, Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, Pallas Athena, Lady Justice, Lady Portia, Lady Nada, and Elohim Cyclopia. So they're all related to justice or different facets, and the divine director is a cosmic being. He's the kind of like the overseer of the entire process. I have had instances in which I've had clients who have had karmic entanglement for many, many years. And I like what you said before about attracting more karma. We are not as smart as we think we are. So when you have a karmic connection with somebody or something, what happens is that in this lifetime, because the way karma operates, sometimes the roles are reversed or the positions are reversed, but the energetic and the emotion is replayed in the next life. Most people echo the past. They don't change anything. They repeat the same thing they did before. And this can go, as a past life regression therapist, I can tell you, it can go something for 10, sometimes hundreds of lifetimes. The same thing gets repeated over and over again. It takes a long time for us to awake as unconscious tendencies to realize, oh my God, I have to stop doing this. I have to make a different choice. So the correction implies making a choice, making a different choice. And sometime when you have these long-standing karmas that are like, I remember one instance, it was millions of years off planet, the same behavior with the same partner continued. And it didn't matter what the person on the one end that was trying to change was doing. That other party didn't want to let go. It had been too long-standing. And it was the karmic board that negotiated. Think of it as a divorce court. Okay? It was the karmic board that helped negotiate the release of the karma. It's not something for the average person will probably never deal with them. It's only when you have things that are, and again, in this instance, I've never seen anything like it. It was millions of years where the same pattern kept repeating over and over and over again. And every time it got worse, it got involved with more, it became more entangling and more damaging because a lot of it was entangled with dark energetic stuff. It got worse and worse and worse. So there were so many things that were involved. The karmic board had to step in because Kuan Yin is the compassion, Mother Mary's compassion, Lady Justice, Lady Portia, again justice, Lady Nada, all of these beings, Elohim Cyclopia, all of them are connected to this idea of finding true justice. Lady Liberty, as one of the members, I mean, all of that comes in and it analyzes the whole process and begin to create a distance. Yes. You wanted to ask a question? Oh, and it creates a distance, and as it creates the distance, it allows the person who's asking the board and asking the board for help me release. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to make a different choice. Although to the other person and the multiple other parties that were involved in this dynamic, that flow was natural to them. I've had it. I'm not doing this anymore. Did that answer your question, Janice?
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to ask a question. Is it a coincidence that all of these are female on the comic board, pretty much?
No, they have more heart and more compassion. It's not a coincidence.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's perfectly natural. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
And thank you for that deep dive into the karmic board, Pierre. I just, as you know, finished proofing that chapter of your new book. So I just want to remind everybody to watch for it coming out. I don't know what the exact date is, but all of this is so well explained in that chapter brilliantly. I just had that one question about, when to call upon them, which is not something you want to do. I remember you said, unless really in need.
The funny thing about this particular incident I had with the climbing board, I was not looking for them. I was guiding the client in meditation, and it was a channel meditation to release and let go and all that. And then all of a sudden, the climbing board was all around us. They step in because it was so difficult to let go, or for the other party to let go. I didn't call them, they just showed up.
When you mentioned the rubber band as you extending your end and the other party extends their end, if you let go of your end, the other party cannot reach you because there's no longer a connection. And yet we talked about how they are not able to release in some instances, which calls again to the karmic board. They're not able to release their sense of, I don't know, offense of some sort. But apparently, even though you've left your rubber band and go, they can still impact you.
Well, what happened is that this person that was letting go, there was a lot of shame and guilt of millions of years that she was not forgiving herself for, of remaining in that shameful pattern. And there were lots of other entities that were connected to that dynamics.
Okay, so it was complex.
It was extremely complex. And only the karmic board could have unraveled it. And I have to tell you, there were multiple sessions that I channeled stuff for, and all of a sudden one day, let's say after 2 or 3 months of doing weekly channeling, and all of a sudden the karmic board step in. And they're like, we're providing assistance.
Isn't that amazing? That's just beautiful.
And again, the blessed field will give you the support that you need. It was extremely complex. Any other questions, any other comments? So the other intention, the other way also to clarify, again, we have to continually self-assess, and we have to constantly trying to make choices, make the right choices. I have said this before, that wisdom, which is what we're trying to accomplish, is power used rightly. So as we are removing karma, balancing karma by through forgiveness, we also have to be intentional about other subconscious parts as well, archetypes or complexes, splinter psyches, and all these things that have fragmented us into pieces. And this is why when we intend to do something, we intend and we unintend at the same time. At least we consciously intend, and then the subconscious mind unintend for us, because we have all these splinters. Let's say, for example, at the moment, the warrior archetype has taken over your conscious self, and you're not even aware that you're being hijacked. The ego is being hijacked by the warrior archetype. So if you're trying to create peace, that warrior archetype will say, we're not having peace today. We're going to war. We're going to battle. So, and if the warrior archetype has taken over, particularly if you find yourself, there's so much agitating rhetoric and vitriol that's around the planet right now. about who's responsible for all the woes of the world and this cabal and all that. If you listen to all of this and you swallow it all, you find yourself brainwashed. And what's going to be triggered? Your warrior archetype. And what does the warrior archetype is going to do? It's going to trigger you in battle. It's going to, and no matter, even if there is another part of you that meditate, that think you're a spiritual being, blah, blah, blah. But because this thing is feeding the warrior, that narrative is feeding the warrior, your psyche is splintered. And that splinter is going to cause a rift. And that rift will diffuse your intentional psychic energy to broadcast what you need to broadcast. It will fly at half mask because the other half is being consumed by something else. This is why I've been saying to a lot of you, be careful what kind of diet that you're feeding your consciousness, particularly now during the transit. I am very, very discerning. It's not that I don't want to be informed. You see that whole thing with the decision of the Supreme Court, I see only the headline. I don't have a TV. I watch my news on YouTube. And even then, I've watched nothing on the Supreme Court because I don't want to get triggered. I don't want to go because there's a part of me that's very militant. It will trigger my warrior. It will trigger my destroyer. It will do all kinds of things. And these energies are extremely big in me. I don't want to go into that space. I want to remain at peace. I want to engage the wise man archetype in me. I want to engage the higher aspect of the seducer archetype in me, which is to seduce for God. I want to engage my inner child. I want my inner child to be at peace, or the innocent. This is the higher aspect of the inner child, which is the innocent. I want to be in that state where I can broadcast hope, because if I get triggered so if you're watching and listening to all this conspiracy theory and all that stuff is being fed to you, either by people sending you videos, I've unfriended a few people because of this. There are certain people I've blocked because I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see it anymore. And I've had conversation with the people in my life. I've said, don't send me these kind of videos anymore. I don't want to see it. I'm too sensitive. I'm going to pick it up and it's going to bother me terribly. I cannot, do not send me these things anymore. I don't want to see them. So that part is important too. Set up a boundary and tell people, I don't want, this is a line in the sand and it's not to be crossed. And if they continue to do it, block them, walk away. Or if they send you something and they're expecting you to call them back, call them 2 or 3 days later. Make them realize, no, I'm not. And when they start talking about it, tell them I'm not interested. Don't send me the stuff. I'm trying to focus on and so the kind of diet that you're feeding your consciousness will inflame or agitate in your subconscious mind to trigger it into reacting. And because so many things are happening, you're trying to balance the karma related to that one and that one. And then all of a sudden the archetype was trying to flare up as well. And then the next thing you know, there's a complex as well. There's a program. It's too many things. All of us, none of us can deal with all of these things all at once. We should all get to a place, it doesn't matter what we watch, it won't bother us. But in the meantime, so that we can weather the rapid fire of all of these things, we should watch. We should be very careful about what kind of diet we're feeding our soul. That way we don't expose ourselves to things that are going to trigger us for too much. And some of these things are family members that are extremely toxic. Friends and family members that are toxic, that you have to stay away from, because people are changing and they're making different choices. And if they become too toxic for you, walk away, talk to them less frequently. It's not that you don't love them. I still love them and care for you, but I can't be around you as often as I used to anymore. Because what you stand for is not at peace with my soul. You're making a choice, and I'm making a different choice. We are all sentient beings, and we are sovereign, and we have the right to make these choices. So those parts are important, because when these archetypes are triggered, because the archetype is not just a complex. A complex is a strength or psyche that has taken shape almost like a sub-personality. Whereas an archetype is the very metrics of life itself. Now, you cannot divorce an archetype, you cannot separate it. Everyone needs a warrior, everyone needs a seducer, everyone needs a ruler, everyone needs a servant archetype, everyone needs a child archetype. You know, the 12 major archetypes, they're all necessary for the equilibrium, the proper balance over on spiritual psychology. But when they are triggered to take over our psyche temporarily, the way it should happen is that they should come in, do what they need to do to deal with an external circumstance. And when they come in, it's not just coming from you. They're tapping in the collective unconscious of all of humanity. So they are huge and they're highly influential. They bring a tremendous amount of power with them. It's a real punch. It's not a little tap. We're talking about a master punch. And therefore, when an archetype is triggered, it creates a bigger impact in the world. And sometimes when if my warrior is triggered and begin to act, I begin to realize that sometimes I don't even know it's there, well, in the early days, until I begin to realize the look on people's face and how terrified they are of me for that moment where I seem to be inflamed. And when I see that, I'm like, okay, step back, pull it back. The warrior archetype is present. Or the destroyer just showed up. Pull back. She needs to go back, or he needs to go back in the background. You need to go back in the subconscious mind. Abaissement du niveau mental lets you go back into the subconscious mind. And let the chooser, which is more neutral, come in and control and manage the cast of character. And the more your ego, the positive aspect of your ego can do this, which is to manage and to interact with all these fragments, there will ultimately be almost like a conductor of an orchestra. You will unify all of it together. And you will be able to create a beautiful, harmonic presence in emptiness. And that presence will give you conscious immortality with clarity, with proper intention, and with you at all time making wise choices. Any questions, any comments? Now, again, I know it's not easy. It's a work in progress. There are good days, there are bad days. There are days where these archetypes come in and they, again, if you're dealing with them for the, you're barely becoming conscious of them, you realize that they're there after the fact. It's after the fact when you begin to analyze the trail of damage that they have created that you realize, oh my God, that archetype was present, or that complex was present. And it takes a moment. And again, this is why I'm isolating myself from all of the external stuff that are happening, because if I allow all of that in, it's going to trigger all of them. And God knows during the beginning of the lockdown, I allowed too much of that to bombard my consciousness all at once. And I don't like, well, I shouldn't say I didn't like. I experienced at the moment a disempowerment that that was not glorious at all. There was nothing, it taught me a great lesson, but I realized that the certainty I had, or I thought I had, got tested. It got tested very deeply. And I realized I had to now go deeper and forge a greater sense of connection to all these various parts of my psyche. And also the part that I'm learning, and I'm still learning that, is that the diet that I feed my consciousness becomes extremely important. Otherwise, it's going to trigger me into all kinds of crazy stuff. And that crazy stuff is going to be extremely damaging to me and to everyone else around me. Any questions, any comments? So going forward, for us to stop being unconscious tendencies in emptiness, we have to do the practice, the breath control, the pranayama, to activate the microtubule network, self-assessment, 5 minutes, and then the torsion field if you're capable of doing it, given your time crunch, all of us are busy. And once that is done, complete, you should be in a better state of clarity. And then watch what you're feeding your consciousness. What kind of news, what kind of, if we have too much data, and a lot of it is toxic stuff that is trying to trigger us into reactivity. And in fact, a lot of time it's intentionally done by certain news channels and news medias as a way to derail us or manipulate us into, again, people who are selling or trying to do market research, they know how many times they have to bombard us with ad before we say yes to. We have to repeat the same thing 7 times, 8 times before the person. And again, so it's important for us to be stand in our integrity, in our sovereignty, and say, I'm not doing this. And as a matter of principle, right now, I'm blocking all that stuff out. I spend a lot of time watching videos of people who are adopting deers that are fawns that they found in the forest, or little dogs and animals or ducks, and all cross-species interdependence. I watch a lot of that other stuff that gives me hope, rather than all of the fear that are being perpetuated, that are being fanned out into the collective unconscious of the world. I am aware of the karma, and if there's a trigger or something, I go immediately into what past life, what did I do, what's my accountability, what's my 50%, and the Ho'oponopono, the forgiveness, then forgive myself. And as I do this, event by event, moment by moment, my intention gets clearer and clearer, and I'm making better choices. I'm becoming wiser. I'm becoming more compassionate, more open to the world. I have more heart. Any questions, any comments?
Well, yeah, Pierre, when you were talking about, when you were going into the details of, explaining the karma, actually, I saw in my mind's eye, it's kind of like a little brief video It was a baby tiger and a monkey, and they were playing together in a field with a slight overgrowth. Now I have no idea what that means, but it just, it just flashed in front of my mind's eye.
Girl, you're reading my mind.
What?
I said you're reading my mind. I, I watch a video.
Well, that must be the field. What?
I watched a video like this the other day.
What?
Yeah.
Well, when you were talking, it just flashed. And I
Yeah,
say, oh, okay.
I watch all of these hopeful, wonderful cross species and reaction. This is what I'm watching.
Okay. I guess
Now-
you not only watching, you are also radiating.
Yeah, because it gives me hope.
Oh, okay.
It gives me hope. A baboon that's
Yeah.
interacting with a meerkat, and they're in friendliness. They're playing. They're jumping. I'm orangutan playing with the otters. This is what I watch when I want to. After trying to save the world and things are so heavy, this is what I watch, and you're not the only one. I have to share this with you. I have to be honest. Georgie called me the other day to tell me 2 days ago, 3 days ago, that he had this crazy dream that he went to a doctor, a dermatologist, and he had the zit on his face, and the doctor was trying to squeeze the zit out, and all of this ooze stuff was coming out, and it kept on coming out and coming out and coming out. Inside, I want to scream and yell, but I'm not saying anything. And he finished the story to say, and this woman wanted to date him, and one of the nurses, and he didn't understand why he was going to go out on a date with this woman, blah, blah, blah. And he was squeezing all of this pus, all of this stuff was coming out. I started laughing. He said, what? I said, I'm going to send you the video of what I was watching last night. It turned out to be Dr. Pimple Popper on TLC that was squeezing a cyst out of somebody's face.
Wow.
He freaked out. I sent him the video. He said, I can't watch this video. I can't. He freaked out. And in the dream, he's dating Dr. Alessandra Lee. He said, yes, she was Asian. Yeah, I don't understand.
Wow.
So again, this is why I have to be careful with my intention. I broadcast very wide. Do you understand what I'm saying? I influence and broadcast very wide. So if I was equally being influenced by darkness and fear, I would cause all of you to receive it as well. Do you get me?
Yeah.
Yeah. It just tells how we interact, relate, and are connected to each other.
Exactly. And it's funny, today I was, and again, it shows up on my YouTube feed, and there was another new videos from Sandra Lee, and I clicked and I was watching it, and then Georgie called immediately. I said, I put it on pause. I started laughing as I answered the phone. I said, all I have to do now is play Dr. Pimple Popper's video, and you're going to call me.
Wow.
And again, influence. Now, if Dr. Pimple Popper, I learned a lot from her, because she gives you the medical term, what's the problem is, and the solution said, and she heals these people, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing about that that's necessarily negative, but it's something very weird. But there's something I found very satisfying by seeing all of this stuff coming out. Maybe it's because I have stuff in my subconscious mind that needs to come out as well. But anyway, this is the second example that I have now confirmation of my own broadcast from what you are saying.
Yeah.
So I rather broadcast that, which is much more hopeful, which is interspecies cooperation and interdependence, than me broadcasting, fear and conspiracy theory and the world is going to end, blah blah blah, and all of this. No. I come here to broadcast hope, to release into the world the frequency of liberation and freedom and ascendance and safe passage, not fear.
Well, it was interesting, the tiger and the monkey, because when that happened, it's like, I'm saying, oh, that's a strange combination, but they were just, playing.
Yep. I mean, there's a whole bunch of videos like this online. There's a guy that has a sanctuary. He has monkeys. He has all these tigers, and he runs around with them. He swims with them, and they're all fun. And these are the things that I watch. That again, it gives me hope. I don't need to watch the dark stuff, and there's and occupy my consciousness with things that are going to cause me to have nightmares.
Wow.
I from time to time watch similar videos. What it just says to me is never underestimate the power of our projecting our light, love, and compassion. That is a beautiful testimony to the fact that it does impact others. So good for you that you're broadcasting beauty in that way. Much better, and probably, well, I don't know about stronger, but much better certainly than the hatred, anger, greed, and conspiracy theories or whatever else is floating about. That are equally powerful, but this is our job, isn't it? This is what we cannot be on the front lines picketing and lobbying in Congress and so on, but we can do this. And we can make more of an impact than we think, as you just demonstrated with Esther and with Georgie.
Yep.
That's true.
The Dalai Lama once said, if you think you cannot make a difference because you're too small, none of you have ever slept in a room with a mosquito before.
But it's that interconnectedness. It's that we know, but we somehow maybe don't trust or don't fully understand, at least. That interconnectedness is a much more real thing in this land of illusions. That's not one of them.
Yep.
We have many illusions that would tell us it doesn't exist.
Yep.
It's the way to go. I'm encouraged by that. Thank you.
Yes. And thank you, Esther, for saying this, because it's giving me, it's fueling, it's putting pep in my step. It's fueling me to continue on that path. I'm on the right path because my energy is so big, and and if you're doing that, you're picking it up, and Georgie's picking it up, more people are picking it up, so I'm radiating it out. I know it to be true because when I go on my walk with my friends on a daily basis, and I sit next to them, the older gentleman, my friend that sits next to me, he's not at rest. As I told you, he was in the army in Vietnam, and he has a lot of issues, but I love him. Okay, he's a good man. And and when he sits next to me, he's like, wow, I could just sit here and fall right to sleep, right? I could, and I know what I'm radiating. I know it's the peace and the serenity in me that he's picking up. I know it. I said, yes. I shake my head, and I, all I need is to be in his proximity to provide him with healing without touching him.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all equally capable of doing the same thing. Well, Janice and I share something else. We share music all the time together. So that's the other part I do as well. I watch a lot of beautiful, all kind of genre of music, but beautiful music all the time.
Mm.
Music being the vehicle to express the soul. That is the most satisfying.
Yes. It could be piano, it could be guitar, it could be vocal, but beautiful music. And I love Janice's analysis as a professional musician. She gives me a lot of insight, and because I know what I feel or I know what I hear, but a lot of times I don't have the proper language to explain it. So she explains it to me, and I get educated. I really appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate it because you introduced me to a practice that Monty and I used to do. We used to comment on, and review together, not review, that's the wrong word. We used to share experiences with music. And so I enjoyed that very much. And you come up with some pretty amazing, amazing selections of rare and or new or unfound talent.
Well, you know, the funny thing about this, I think Google reads my mind.
Oh, you're broadcasting to Google now too?
Yeah, I don't know, because these things come to me. I don't go look for them. It's not like I do a search. It shows up on the feed.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I'm like, what is this singer, this performer? And I click on it, and all of a sudden, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I immediately send it to you. The algorithm of the AI, the Google AI has a way of predicting, and sometimes it's very scary, by the way, because it does things that, one time I was in a store in CVS. I didn't even pick up the item. My phone was in my pocket. I look at an item, I read the label, I lean against the shelf. When I got home, I went on Facebook, the ad for the same thing showed up on my feed. It freaked me out.
Yeah, I like a little more separation in the.
It freaked me out. I'm like, it's like I took a picture with him from my phone. How did they know? It scared me. Anyways, let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll do a closing meditation. 5 minutes.
Okay.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Please forgive me. I love you. And I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you noticed. Take a very deep and slow breath. Inhale from the core of the earth. And let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, moving through your core, and exiting outside of your head as you exhale completely and release it into the blessed field. Let go. Let a cascade of love and benevolence come to you. Inhale deeply and bring all of that repair into your body. passing through your core, cascading down to the bottom of your feet and going into the core of the earth. Exhale. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, exiting outside of your head, and let it release into source all fears, all desires to control. Let go. Exhale completely. And now inhale the love, the benevolence, and the kindness that's coming to you, and bringing it to the top of your head, passing through your core and going into the center of the earth. Exhale completely. Let go. Take a breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move to the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging all fears. And exhale everything outside of your head as you release and surrender all of it and unburden yourself into source. Let go. Let the love, the peace, and the release of the blessed field come to you. Inhale deeply and bring all of this into your body, passing through you and your core, dropping into the very core and center of the earth. Release and let go. Take a breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging all fears. And let it all move outside of your head as you exhale now into source. You surrender and you let go. Release all of it into infinity times infinity. Take another breath from source and let this breath move in the love of God and let it pass through the top of your head, passing through you, cascading down to the bottom of your feet and into the core of the earth, grounding into the center of Gaia. Take a breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging all fears, and let it all exit outside of your head as it releases into source all of your burdens. Surrender and let go. Let all of the love, the acceptance, and the compassion in the world come to you from this blessed field. Inhale deeply And let it move into the top of your head, passing through your entire being, dropping into the very core of the earth. Take another breath from the core of the earth and let this breath move through the bottom of your feet, passing through you, dislodging all fears. And let it exit outside of your head. And exhale completely into source as you empty yourself into the benevolent care of the loving Mother Father. Inhale deeply the kindness and the support that's coming toward you. Bring it back into the top of your head, passing through you. Let it drop into the bottom of your feet and let it drop further down into the core of the earth. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. I release all attachments, fears, and control. And I surrender into the great emptiness and endless luminosity. Become aware of your core and central column. What insights, expansion, radiation, generosity, love, and compassion Does this part of you want to share with the world? Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you. Thank you, Pierre. That was a beautiful place, a beautiful spot.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I want to thank all of you for joining us today and for participating in the class. Thank you all on Patreon for your support. If you're watching us on YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you next week. Namaste. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Good night. Good night. Love you all.